room background. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Wake Up with Toastmasters. My name is Jean Williams. I'm your Program Quality Director for District 115, which is Southern Nevada. This is my co-host, Jean Denford. Hi, Jean. He's muted. Well, we're not without our hiccups. Well, look who's in the studio. Our guest, Rhonda Green. How are you, Rhonda?
Hi, darling. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. We are excited to see you. But before we get to start, we're talking to you about fun things. Every first-time guest gets asked, tell us about your first Toastmaster experience.
How I got involved in Toastmasters is even more interesting. I have a speech impediment, and when I'm ill, there are simple words I can't say. I can't even say the word general evaluator. I just mess it up so badly. I was in Tucson, Arizona in District 3, and I went to talk to my engineering director. And every day I say radiology, every day. But for some reason that day I was ill. I was a contractor. You don't go to work, you don't get paid. That's why I was at work, even though I wasn't feeling well. And I butchered radiology so bad. Right. And he kept saying it, and I kept trying to repeat it. And then I got to the point where I was saying, okay. And he said, Miss Rhonda, I hate it when they call me Miss Rhonda. Miss Rhonda, we're starting a Toastmasters club here, and I really believe it could help you with your communication difficulty. Well, since he was the director of engineering, he decided my salary, my vacation, and my future at the company, just like when they tell you to consider going to graduate school, you go because it affects your salary. So I joined a Toastmasters club. Now, I did not join that club because I couldn't speak. I joined the club because my boss told me to.
that happens
But
a lot.
But that was 15 years ago. That was 15 years ago, and I am still a Toastmaster.
Well, once you got in through the door because you felt inclined to go, what made it interesting to you that you're staying?
Well, one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to be a teacher when I was growing up. I wanted to teach mathematics, but my mother looked at me and she said, teaching is not the profession for you. She was a librarian teacher, so she was all around it. And she was right. I had some substitute teaching experiences that told me my mother was right on the money. But once I got into Toastmasters, it taught me the team concept. I am an individualist, I'm an engineer. Give me the job, let me do it, and don't micromanage it. Well, that was okay 20, 30 years ago. Nowadays, everything is in a team concept. And in my own way, I get to teach. I get to help new Toastmasters who are coming in. I get to help district leaders all over the country with the little difficulties that they're having in their districts, because since I'm not in their district, they can talk to me because I have been all the way up through the chain, all the way to district director and immediate past district director. So I bring a view to it and help calm them down and help them create solutions to help them move forward. It's like my hobby. I just love it. I'm in 5 clubs in 4 different districts right now. Obviously, I love me some Toastmasters.
Well, as you were going through the leadership line, and we have Toastmasters in our audience, but we also have non-Toastmasters. So we've talked about, we have the club level, then the area level, the division level, and the district level and above. And you've gone the 3 steps above that. Of all the leadership roles you've had above the club level, which one have you liked the best?
I enjoyed club growth director more than any position, because in the club growth director position representing the district, I was able to go into corporate environments and talk to CEOs about why a Toastmasters club would help the communication difficulties they're having at their company. I like going to demo meetings and explaining to the public how Toastmasters can help you, and it can. And it gave me such a broad view of the entire organization. I got to go visit clubs by request. I didn't sneak up on anybody. And you understand that. You show up, all of a sudden they say, oh, the club growth director is here. No, no, no. I would not go unless they invited me to come. Usually they would invite me to come when they were having an open house, because in a short amount of time, I could explain to anyone why Toastmasters could help them. And it was so much fun. And the majority of the time, I end up helping club growth directors in different districts. But now we have pathways. When pathways hit my district, I happen to be the district director. And like all leaders, I had to lead by example. On that first day, I hit it hard. I'm a person who creates templates and ways that people can follow my footsteps and be successful. I'm considered as the subject matter expert for the west side, the east side of Oklahoma. Yes, I'm an engineer and I have problems with east and west, but that's okay. And since I created this little tip sheet, every time we had a TLI, I was teaching it, and giving it out to people, step-by-step directions that people went, wow. And then our regional advisor, who is one step above the state level, had a problem with a person in District 43. She says, I have a resource for you. And she referred me. So then I started teaching advanced pathways, things to help the base camp managers, ways to show the old crowd who was used to the older education program how to use the new program to attain that wonderful Distinguished Toastmaster Award. So even though I'm trying to step back from leadership, I am still fully involved. I just love it. It's a lot of fun.
Wow, you're a very busy person. So between a career and Toastmasters, and you are now a published author.
Yes.
And I have your book, Surviving the Sunrises and Sunsets. There we go. Which just was released not even a week ago.
Last Wednesday.
5 days ago. 5 days ago. Has the fun wore off yet?
No, ma'am, the fun has not worn off. And I have always wanted to be a published author. Now, I have published Toastmasters training information for different companies. I create training specifically for them, and I have published training manuals for them. But publishing a book about my own memoirs, about my own life stories, we're talking about over 60 years of stories. And let me tell you, finding romance over 50 is funny as sin. The things I went through with husband number one and husband number two. In Toastmasters, you can give a speech on any topic. So I would pull from my experience with some of those funny stories and make sure that I got to the point, use gestures, those things. So instead of having to create things to talk about, I would talk about different things in my life. And people would just laugh and enjoy it so much. And I said, I need to write a book about this. And last year, I was looking through Facebook on the Toastmasters International Facebook site, and I saw this post. It says, we're starting a new Toastmasters club called Authors and Aspiring Authors. I said, maybe they can teach me some things to help me get my book published. And oh my God, did they ever? Did they ever? And in the dedication of my book, I say thank you to the Authors and Aspiring Authors Club. I learned so much about self-publication, so much about editing. Those Toastmasters would listen to my story and give me feedback. They'd catch those R's, they'd catch the grammar, all of that information. All of that helped me. And I said, that was a wonderful idea.
Yeah, that's one of our newer clubs in the district. It's an advanced club. And the reason it's advanced is because we don't spend the time with the very basics of Toastmasters, because we focus on getting published and writing our books and getting feedback. So it's really great. But that's where our paths crossed. But yes, one of it's a rotating agenda, which I like too. It's not the same agenda every week, but one of the agendas we have is where 2 or 3 different people will read their stories and then get feedback. And I know the first time I heard you read one of your stories, I thought, oh my gosh, she's already published. Maybe she didn't tell me. Maybe I misunderstood. And then you said, and after I said, did I goof? Or you're published already? And you said, not yet, but really soon. And you were right. It was really soon.
No, it was not that soon. When you all introduced me to NaNoWriMo, National Novels Writing Month, which is the month of November, that you try to write 15,000 words in 1 month. That's a whole lot of writing. I knew that because I work full time, I do Toastmasters full time, because last year when that happened, I was the public relations manager for my district. So, I mean, I was really busy with getting out notices for them. But every time I got the chance, I would sit down and I would write one of my stories. Oh, that would make a good story. Write the title of that story over here. Write the story. But then life happened. My job ended. Oh, well, big deal. I knew it was going to end. But then I got a new job offer, which was going to require for me to move 400 miles. And let me tell you, that was a high performance leadership project in the making, with all the coordination and getting everything together to make that happen. I use what I learned in Toastmasters in my real life. When they give me a project on my job, yes, I'm sitting out in my car. The building is over there, but it's way too noisy to be an interview in the building. I use the Toastmasters templates for planning an event, for doing a high performance leadership project where you have to pull a team together. I said, well, I took a 7-month hiatus from working on my book, which took me to July of this year. And I was talking to my sister on the phone. She says, well, how many stories do you have together so far? And yes, I was doing it old fashioned way. I was writing all the basics down by hand. I said, well, I have 17 stories already written, and I have somewhere between 35 and 40 more subjects already. Every time I talk to her, I get another subject. Do you remember when we did this? I said, yes, and I remember when I did that you don't know about. So she says, well, instead of trying to do it all, she says, why don't you do a series, a book 1, a book 2, and a book 3? I said, okay. Monday, I went to work. I did not have any work to do. So I would type 2 chapters a day. And when I would type those 2 chapters, I would add the details, and I would add a short lesson learned at the end of each story. So maybe somebody could learn from the hard lessons that I went through. And I did it. I did that most important thing, that editing. Okay. Anybody that's going to publish a book, if you don't have a degree in English, you need to get somebody else to edit it. You need to listen to somebody else read it. You need to make sure that what you're saying is what you want to say. When you read it yourself, you already know the story, and you will skip over words. You'll miss the grammar. But when you hear somebody else read it, or somebody else looks at it, they can pick up things that you cannot. Okay. I did all of that editing thing. It was done. It was ready to go. And then I sat there. I was nervous. It took me 3 days before I hit that button. I called my girlfriend in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I sent her a text message. You know how we text nowadays. I said, give me a phone call. She said, hey, babe, what do you want? I said, tell me to push the button. Push the darn button. She said, for what? I said, don't worry about what. Just tell me. Just advise me that now it's time. I'm ready to go ahead and push that button. So guess what I did? Wednesday, I talked to her outside the plant. I went in, sat down into my chair, pulled up my publishing platform, and pushed the button. That easy. And once I pushed that button, then it gave me the PDF file. I went to Kindle Direct Publishing and uploaded the paperback. Paperback was ready the next day. I was like, still having some problems with Amazon, but I'm gonna work on that this week. It's gonna happen before the end of this week. But I was just like, There is so much information out there. And the Authors and Aspiring Authors Club introduced me to self-publishing. I didn't have to worry about Harper and Row, them owning the rights to my book.
Mhm.
I could own it myself. I could direct it myself. I could write what I wanted to write, whether anybody else likes it or not. But since the paperback sales, the paperback costs more than the ebook, I've got a special going on the ebook right now for $1.99 as a pre-launch.
Mm.
I have sold more paperbacks than I have sold ebooks. But that's going to change. I'm sure that when I start doing more publicity and this is that and the other, it's going to change. But I I give so much credit to my Toastmasters organization, not only the Authors and Aspiring Authors, but all of the other Toastmasters clubs I'm a member of, because sooner or later, all of them have heard one or more of my stories at some time, but they have not heard all of them. You know, you got those special few that won't embarrass you.
Yeah, I know that
There's
feeling.
some stories in that book that fortunately my mother is no longer here so that she can't read it.
Well, the thing that I just got the book yesterday in the middle of I was in the middle of a Toastmaster meeting actually, and so I got like 4 or 5 pages into it. But one thing I noticed right away, and you had mentioned that the stories are not in any particular order, but I also like that each story has a moral. But I also really like that each story is very short. It's just 2 or 3 pages, most of them, sometimes 4, and then a moral. So then it kind of stands by itself. So this is like the perfect book for like waiting rooms. It's a good size and it fits in your purse. And you can take it to a waiting room and read one chapter and you don't have to like, okay, where was I? Where was I? And keep trying to figure out because it is, it's very conversational, like as if you were talking to somebody telling them the stories. I love it. It's a great format. And I like that your sister would made you do it. Otherwise, we'd still be waiting for that 500-page book. So this is
Well,
even.
there are stories on there that are longer. Okay. I am over 60. I'm 62. Woohoo! I just had a birthday. And as you get older, we will have situations where the majority of us have to deal with our parents getting dementia or our parents passing, expiring from this life to the next life.
Mhm.
And so I put that story in there. Now, to you listening, that may sound like a sad story, but it had one of the funniest morals ever. And that my mother, as wonderful as she was, she even taught us a lesson in her homegoing. And I said, I've got to put that in there because I have had Toastmasters friends whose parents were in a coma and they were having to make that do not resuscitate decision. And I would go and talk to them and say, tell your sisters, tell your brothers, tell them this. They say ventilator, ventilator. But once you sign that paper, then they change that terminology on you and it makes you feel so guilty, even though you know you're doing the right thing. You need to prepare people for that. And there have been so many Toastmasters. I've been at the hospital and I said, what's going on? And I said, okay, let me give you a little bit of information just to give you a heads up. Oh, well, I got it. I'm not worried about it. I'm cool. I said, you might be, but your sisters may not be ready for that. So you need to gently tell them about it. Use them Toastmaster skills to persuade. You may gently tell them about it so that they will be aware of what's going to happen. So I said, I need to put that story in this book. Okay. You know, over my lifetime, I've had abusive situations. I've been hit. I've been knocked out cold by husbands. You know, the people who are really supposed to love you most. Doesn't stop me from being the sunny, happy person I am, but I've lived through that. I have survived through that. That's why it's called surviving through the sunsets and sunrises and sunsets. Okay, the good, the bad, and everything in between. 62 years is a lot of years, and I've been through a lot of things. Mhm.
But I'm glad that you put a variety of stories in the book because I think there's so many. I know, like when I would write even as a teenager, and my mom would always listen and read my stories. Oh, don't put that. That would make something, that might look bad. That might look bad. And so I was kind of just so preconditioned to, oh, I better not write anything. But a lot of the stories that that my mother would have said, oh no, are the ones that make us who we are. They're the ones that make us, like you said, survivors, that make us understand and be able to sympathize with the next person, or that just help us understand more of life because we've been through it. And I think that's that's the stories we should share quickly.
Well, all of my stories are not about romance. There's a couple stories about cooking. There's a story in there about floating the river, my first experience ever doing that. Yes, I love it, but me and sunburn don't work too well. Okay, but it's just an assortment of the different things that were fun. It's a book that you can pick up, you can read, you can laugh. And yeah, there's a Toastmaster story in there. And in book 2 and book 3, there are going to be a couple of more Toastmasters because I have dated Toastmasters too. Okay. I go to work, I go to Toastmasters. Where else am I going to meet somebody? Okay. And let me tell you, Toastmaster single females and Toastmaster single males are just like any other single females and males. Okay. It's not as bad as a workplace romance, but you still got to be careful with who you're dating, no matter what environment it is. Okay.
That is true.
I had somebody when I put the post on Facebook that I finally published it, somebody said, when is it out? I want to see if I'm in there.
So no, that's volume 2. You'll be
No, they were in volume 1. Okay. They were in volume 1. And when I started talking about what we did and where we live, because I did put the states, this book has nobody's name in it. My name is not even mentioned in the book. This person, that person, their names are not mentioned because I did not want to go through the legalities of having to get releases from the people. A strange person who knows none of us does not know who I'm talking about. So it does not identify a person specifically. Yeah. But most of them say, you can use my name, you can use my name. Well, that's what they say, but their kids might not like it. Okay.
That's true. Well, because you actually told me, I did not realize this. I thought, well, if something happens and therefore I was part of the event, I'd be able to list the other people's names. And you said, no, that a person's name is actually their intellectual property. So I wasn't aware of that. That's the kind of thing we learned in Authors and Aspiring Authors, all these little tidbits of information that all the different people have that we bring together. Because you had mentioned, like, you self-published. We have a couple other authors in the group that have self-published, but we have 1 or 2 that have gone traditional publishing. And then we have all the aspiring authors like me. But NaNoWriMo is actually and it was interesting that one of our members, Andy Scully, said, well, are we going to do anything for NaNoWriMo? And I had no idea what she was talking about. It just sounded, I really thought she was making something up. I said, you just want me to say these weird sounds to make me look foolish, don't you? And she says, no, it's a real thing. But it is, it's the month, they encourage you the month of November to write. How many words did you say? It's like 12,000.
15,000.
15,000 words.
In 1 month. That's a lot of words.
Which comes out to like, what, 2 or 3 pages a day or something?
1,200 words a day, 1,200 to 1,500 words a day, because you're not going to write every last day because you have a life.
Yeah.
Okay. But it was way too many. Okay. Way too many. And mine was a little different because I was not writing all the details. I was just writing and I hand wrote everything. I hand wrote just the basics. Then when I typed it, I added in more details and the lesson learned. Yeah. Tell you a story about the lesson learned. Before my sister ever heard a single lesson learned, she said, well, Rhonda, you have a habit of getting a little bit preachy. So you need to be careful about that. And I was PO'd. I was like, you don't even know what I have written down and you're telling me about preaching. But that night I went and I opened up the story. There is a story about some abuse that occurred. And then I realized I put, if you need help, Google it. And then I put, if you Google female domestic abuse, there's over 7 billion. I actually had put the numbers in there and men abuse for men. And yeah, it was a little bit preachy. So I cut it back. I cut it back from a whole half a page just to 2 or 3 sentences of this is a warning. This is something you have to look out for and let it go. Okay. Because I don't want to preach to people. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I didn't want it to be preachy, and she was right.
Mm.
So even though I'm over 62, I still take advice from other people.
Well, I think
And
it's those who love us the most that give us the hardest advice, but it's the advice we need the most.
but how could she tell me that when she hit that? Because she knows me. Okay. She knows me. At one time, when I was the club growth director in District 16, the night of the conference, Friday night of the conference, it's the club growth director's responsibility to give the invocation or pray over dinner.
Mhm.
Well, I went in and they had already started dinner. They handed me a microphone and sent me to the stage. And I said, excuse me, it is my job to pray over this meal.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I started praying. You heard forks hitting the table. Okay. And I had a long day because I had been to like 6 corporate visits, confused this and the other, and the person with me had really annoyed me and pissed me off. I had closed my eyes and I was preaching. I looked up, people's eyes was popped open. They were looking at me and I said, uh-oh, amen.
Perhaps I prayed too hard.
No, I had started sermonizing, okay, about having understanding. God, help us to understand people that sometimes they don't know what they're saying or what they're doing and don't have the common sense to, it was one of those don't have the common sense to back up. I was taking out my frustration in my prayer, which is something that I do. It helps me cope with everyday situations. But once I closed my eyes, I forgot who my audience was. And at that moment, it was just me and God. He was just listening to me vent. Okay. And I opened my eyes, people were looking like,
You're with 5 people apologizing to you who weren't even there. If it was me and
oh
your
God, thank you very much for this food. Amen. Okay. And so my sister was right. If I'm caught off guard, I will sermonize. I will. And I was going like, when I was living in Arizona, I had thought about going into the ministry, but something told me, something was pushing me that way. And then something told me, not yet. You got a little bit of living to do. You got to understand some things in life before you can help other people in this life. And I said, whew, dodge that bullet. Okay. But I do have a habit, just like in this conversation, you see, I keep talking and don't know how to shut up. Go ahead.
well, we are actually though really close to the end of our time. So you get to, okay, Authors and Aspiring Authors is an advanced club. That means you have a home club. Tell us just in 30 seconds or less about your home club, when they meet, where they meet, and what kind of club they are.
My home club, which one of my home clubs? My home club is currently, I say that my home club is the Tulsa Toastmasters Club number 148. It is currently the 14th, number 14th of the oldest clubs in Toastmasters International. It's located in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Its original club number is number 148. We chartered in 1939 and Ralph Smedley actually signed our charter form. And we have that. Because of the Tulsa Club is responsible for building all of the clubs in the Southwest Central United States. It started in Oklahoma. Our people chartered clubs in Texas, chartered clubs in Kansas. So the influence of that one club spread over many districts and many states. It is a hybrid club right now. We meet online and in person. Our people online, who is me, because I'm all the way in St. Louis, everybody else is in Oklahoma, we still function in roles as in Toastmasters, Table Topics Masters, do evaluations, even though we are online. And they have the camera set up so that we can see them and they can see us.
Oh, good.
And when we only have one computer working, we have the person who's talking come up to the lectern so that those of us online can see them. So we have worked out those difficulties.
Oh, okay. And then your advanced club is Authors and Aspiring Authors. And that one meets Fridays at 6 p.m. Pacific.
Oh, and my Tulsa Club meets every Monday at 6:30 to 7:30 Central Time.
Okay.
And then I have the Leadership Advantage Club. I chartered it a virtual only leaders club last year. It's for leaders and trainers. people who are leaders, have difficulty being leaders. We have an advisory board at the end of each meeting. People who are trainers and they are practicing training to give to other people, they can come to our club and get feedback for that training. Then I'm a member of the Aerospace Orators Club, which is actually a club I've been a member of since 2006. Aerospace Achievers, 2 different clubs. My newest club is my club here in St. Louis with the Boeing Company. It's called Aerospace Orators. In that club, I am the club coach because I could not join a club that was not successful without working to help it be better. So I am now the coach and the club. I'm the club president of 3 clubs in 3 different states. It gets really interesting.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
Somebody twisted my arm for one club, and I said, well, I twisted your arm to get you in district leadership, so I can't tell you no.
I know that's happened to me too. Gene, remember when you said like, okay, give me an application. Well, we've got to stop now because it's our thank you very, very much for coming.
I have enjoyed it, and this is my first book interview, and it's Toastmasters, but Toastmasters has helped me get where I am today. They've helped me get the job I have. They helped me negotiate a better salary with all those different things I learned with negotiating the best outcome, which is a pathways elective. Yeah, baby. There are times you ring your own chives, and when you're trying to get more money is when you do that.
So we need to. So now we know we need to have you back for part 2. Well, thank you very much for coming. It's our time is wrapped up. If you see us on Facebook, like, comment, and share. I'll be texting you the link to the show, and you'll see it. And for that, tomorrow morning. Okay, so tomorrow morning you guys have Ken Richardson and Phyllis Tribby as your hosts on Wake Up with Toastmasters. Tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Have a good day.